Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest edition of the Woke Bros. Of course, I'm your host, Big Waz, aka Wazzy Lambre, man. And we got another dope, exciting show for you guys. Just a lot of crazy shit in the news recently. Definitely want to talk about the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul. She sprung into action to make sure the CEOs of New York State feel warm and protected. Just hilarity ensued from that. We'll get into that. My man Ken Klippenstein was all over that. Um, Nancy Pelosi on her way out, one last smack to the. You know when you was a kid and your mom and your papa just smack you in the back of the head? That's what Nancy Pelosi did to AOC this week, which I just thought was hilarious. Gonna get into that, but just wanted to because it's in the news right now. This business with the government shutdown and Doge and the Republicans and Mike Johnson and Donald Trump and Elon and Vivek and all of these dudes. So I just wanted to give y'all a bit of a breakdown and some perspective on this shutdown shit. So this week, basically, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, Republican Mike Johnson, came to an agreement with the Democrats on a spending bill that would keep the government funded. It would do a couple of things: keep the government funded, push this debt ceiling thing to 2026, which obviously Trump wanted, and just fund a bunch of things. Like, it was just gonna be this normal ass Washington bipartisan deal. Like, there was nothing to it. But however, Elon and Vivek have been pumping their chests about how influential they would be and how influential Doge, Department of Government Expenditures, or whatever this shit is called, so they couldn't just let a spending bill happen without them having their little say. And so Elon comes out and he's like, "Oh, this is a terrible bill, blah, blah, blah. Any Republican that signs on this should be primary." Like, they just, huff and puff. Shortly thereafter, Donald Trump tweets about it. The bill gets blown up. And you might be saying, like, whatever, we'll get into like Elon like actually being influential in our government, like how insanely crazy and stupid this all is, and problematic and ridiculous and whatever. We'll get into that part of it. But it's just like, yo, what exactly is going on here? And the whole thing is like, these guys, have called themselves being the masters of government efficiency and spending and blah, 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 blah. But here's the dirty little secret that, everybody who pays even a little bit of attention to this understands, is that there is no party who's about actual fiscal conservatism when they're actually in power. Both parties run up the deficit because both parties know the deficit is kind of fucking meaningless. If we're being real and honest, it doesn't matter for real. It's literally just a talking point. And both parties know this. It's just the Republicans, they pay a lot of lip service to being the party of fiscal conservatism and tightening the purse strings and living with the government needs to live within its means and blah, 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 blah. And so, Elon did all of this hand wringing, and Trump doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. He's like, yo, do a shutdown. Who cares? Like, do it while Biden's still in office. When I get there, y'all ain't shutting anything down. But do it while Biden is in office. And the reason why this is just tough for them, in terms of Elon and them putting their finger on the sort of scales here, it's like, it's December, it's the holiday. These congressmen, they thought they were going home for the holidays, like, all right, business as usual. But like, Elon does have a bit of a microphone right now. And so after he put the pressure on a deal that they basically already agreed to with the Democrats, it gets blown up. 36 Republicans are like, yo, we're not voting for this. These guys have a very slim margin in the House. So if they're going to do the, if they're not going to do a bipartisan bill, like they have to literally get damn near every single Republican on board. And so, a lot of these Tea Party types, these Chip Roy types are like, yeah, hell yeah. Why the hell are we going to pass this? This is going to add $5 trillion to the debt, blah, 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 blah. And I think Elon and Trump kind of understand, like, we can't actually go through with the government shutdown. But let's extract some different little things or whatever onto this and make it seem like we got to win. However, because y'all got the ball rolling on this and this part of the caucus, these like Freedom Caucus type of deficit hawk type Republicans, they feel emboldened by Elon coming out and speaking against this bill. Because this is their whole bag. This is the kind of shit their constituents actually get excited about. Like, this is the stuff they run on is, belt tightening in Washington. So, like, what starts off as, like, chest pumping from Elon and the Doge people and Trump just not caring ends up spiraling into, like, Republicans who actually believe in this, not Elon in them. Because, like, here's the thing. It's the funny thing, like, especially with Elon, who's like one of the government's biggest subcontractors, his company. Like, if the government is tightening its belt, like, that means eventually it's going to come around to you not paying yourself. Like, none of these people actually believe in this stuff, actually believe in these cuts, actually think like discretionary spending should come. Like, they don't actually believe it, but it's always popular to say in public that you want to cut government bloat, because there is government bloat. But it's not in the things that these fools would actually want to cut, which are entitlements like Social Security, like Medicare, which are extremely popular. And so you get this little merry-go-round of talking points where, like, nobody's actually serious about this. Like y'all can go back and look it up. Whenever the freaking Republicans, again, the so-called fiscally conservative party in Washington, whenever they have a clean sweep of the House, the Senate, and the executive, they never cut government spending. In fact, they always add it up and pile it up and do shit like Iraq and Afghanistan and do, Trump's insanely expensive tax cut for the richest people in our country. Which, again, when you cut tax, you cut revenue, you add to the debt. Like, they never do this shit. Like, they just talk about it and say it. And so Elon does his normal thing. Actual Republicans who care about this start puffing their chests. And then the Democrats are just like, look, we've already agreed on a framework of a deal. You guys have the majority in the House. So, like, y'all can figure it out yourselves what bill y'all want to pass. It's not us that's shutting the government down. Y'all have the power in the House to do it. All right, cool. Do it on your own. We're not stepping in to mediate this. When we have the majorities, we end up passing spending bills. We keep the government running. Y'all go ahead and do it. And mind you, again, some of the, like, how Elon decided to attack this was like, saying that there was this fraud and waste and abuse that actually didn't exist. Some of the stuff that was in there was like the government funding child cancer research. Some of the other things. What was one of the other things? There was like a provision to like basically rein in these big pharma middlemen who like do like cost negotiations and just basically end up making sure that you and I pay more for, pharmaceuticals. It was going to rein in that. One of the things, of course, that Elon wanted to get stricken, which is just hilarious, was like there was a provision in there that would sanction companies that did certain types of investments in China, because, of course, we're in a Cold War with China. But I don't know how we could do that if oligarchs like Elon, who are effectively running the government right now, have deep connections to China, business connections to China. So he's like, yo, get that out of there. It's just one hilarious pattern. And it's just like, I think Elon feels like super invested and like he wants to be, he wants to act like he cares about this right now, but I think he's gonna learn pretty soon that like this shit don't work how you think it does. And these entrenched powers and bureaucracies in Washington are what they are. And Doge ain't gonna do a goddamn thing about quote unquote cutting spending in government. It's just not gonna happen because here's the funniest thing about cutting the expenditures, man. And you know, a lot of the waste being like the basically the subcontractors who we pay, like basically our vendors and defense spending and all this other shit and consultants that we pay for. Like the biggest waste and fraud are amongst the most powerful corporate interests in our country and how they just extract government cash, you know what I mean, hand over fist, is precisely why it's never going to happen. Like the people that you would want to rein in the bloat and the waste for are the most powerful people in government. You know, are the most powerful people in our country, which is exactly why it's never going to happen. And eventually they'll pass something, guys. Like they're not going to do this shutdown. Like one of the things that would get shut down is like air traffic control during holiday like, you know how poisonous that would be politically in terms of public pressure. Like if the Republicans have to wear that, they shut down like air traffic control and TSA. And the amount of the lines and like that kind of shit during this time of the year, like politically, it's just a non-starter. But I just thought this was just a fascinating sort of insight, man, into how government works, and you know, just the idea that Elon has such a seat at the table, and folks just need to understand, like, you know, again, I bring up the China, the sanctions on companies that are, you know, doing expenditures or investments in China because we're allegedly in a Cold War with them. You know, what you would call it? What do they call it? Great power competition or whatever. You know, ostensibly, what our lawmakers would say is, you know, we're doing that for the greater good of the country. You know, we're in competition with China, blah, blah, blah. U.S. needs to maintain its hegemony throughout the world, blah, blah, blah. Allegedly, that's good for, obviously, I don't agree with that framework, but that's what they would say. So how is it that just one individual, first of all, nigga's not even American. I was about to call this dude American. How is it just this one individual oligarch can be like, you know what, this isn't good for me personally, and so it has to change despite the fact that allegedly this is good for all Americans. Like the conflict of interest is just nuts. And the fact that he's one of the government's, the DOD's biggest subcontractors. It's like it's so obvious. And, you know, the only thing that I find heartening about this is like the more that like there's a perception out there that Trump is being led, you know, basically being walked on a leash by Elon Musk. Like there's nothing Trump hates more than the idea that he is in control of his own shit. The more that idea starts to permeate, like he's gonna fucking alienate this dude. This shit ain't gonna last. Like shit like this is something that Trump doesn't really care about. He's never really been interested in the sort of minutia of, you know, Congress and legislation. But like, let Elon bump against like something Trump like really cares. Like, this dude is out of here. And so yeah, this is just a fascinating view into like the Trump regime 2.0 and how this whole thing is gonna shape up. Just kind of hilarious. All right. I want to get to Nancy Pelosi and AOC, and I'm about to pull this up real quick, Jerv. And my man Chris Hayes from MSNBC did a little segment. I'm gonna pull this up for you guys. Jerv, let me know. Throw that up there. Here we go.
Looking for a reason to get away? We've got luggage that rolls with the punches and won't weigh you down. It fits your...
This isn't YouTube.
Democratic Congressman Jerry Connolly of Virginia was elected by his caucus to be the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. That's the highest ranking member of the minority party, the Democrats. Connolly, who is 74 and was just diagnosed with esophageal cancer, beat back a challenge from 35-year-old progressive Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez amid calls for a new generation of leadership in the Democratic Party. As Democrat Don Bayer of Virginia, a Connolly ally, put it, quote, "Jerry's a young 74, cancer notwithstanding." Now, to be clear, I'm sure Jerry Connolly will do a fine job as the ranking Democrat on oversight. I understand his colleagues respect him. I understand the way seniority works in Congress, which has been there forever. Often there's a reason for it. You learn a lot over the years. But in light of everything that has happened over the past decade, it does feel like Democrats still have not learned a pretty important lesson here. Back in 2013, when some liberals called for the retirement of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, then President Barack Obama invited Ginsburg, at the time an 80-year-old cancer survivor, to a now infamous lunch meeting. The president gently implied that it was time for her to pass the torch before the 2014 midterms, when Democrats were expected to lose the Senate, making it impossible to replace her with another ideological liberal on the court. Ginsburg refused to step aside.
You're 83. You're the oldest serving member on the Supreme Court. How long do you think you can do this?
At my age, you have to take it year by year. I know I'm okay this year. But what will be next year? I'm hopeful, however, because my most senior colleague, the one who most recently retired, Justice John Paul Stevens, stepped down at age 90. So I have a way to go.
Republicans retook the Senate in 2014, and they held it until 2021. Ruth Bader Ginsburg died in September 2020 at the age of 87, 3 years after that interview and 7 years after her meeting with Obama. Donald Trump and the Republican Senate, just a few months before the election, replaced her with conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett, further cementing conservative control of the court for generations to come and facilitating the end of Roe v. Wade. You would think that would have been enough for Democrats to start taking the age issue seriously.
You would think.
But it was not. In April of last year, President Joe Biden announced he was running for re-election, even though he was the oldest man to ever serve as president and was also clearly having a hard time communicating at the level necessary to occupy the bully pulpit. It wasn't until over a year later, when Biden gave a cataclysmic performance in his first debate with Donald Trump, that the Democrats changed course. After a wrenching, excruciating process just months out from the election, Biden, again, to his credit, finally stepped aside under enormous pressure. But he clearly didn't do so under the conditions, we can say in retrospect, that would have been best for Democrats to run a winning campaign. You would think that would have been enough for Democrats to start taking the age issue seriously. But it was not. Jerry Connolly won that vote today. And he did so thanks in part to former Speaker Nancy Pelosi whipping votes for him. Now, again, to her credit, enormous credit, Pelosi did choose to step aside and relinquish her job as House Minority Leader
at 82
to a new
years
generation
old.
of leadership. She also played an enormous role in the successful effort to push Joe Biden to step aside this summer, which was very hard to do and I think the right thing to do. But now Pelosi whipped votes to make sure that Connolly got the oversight job over the young star in the party, even as the 84-year-old Pelosi is recovering from hip surgery after suffering a fall. It feels like a moment of genuine madness.
That's it, Jerv. That's it. I mean, Chris, he said it all, bro. From Ruth Bader Ginsburg to goddamn Pelosi to goddamn Biden to, he ain't mentioned Feinstein, old ass. She was senile as a motherfucker. These motherfuckers were wheeling her into the damn Senate every single day. And now House Oversight Committee, like, again, it's just crazy to me because AOC of all of the, the leftward flank of the party, squad members, if you will, who have just been decimated and destroyed, her more than anybody, I feel like, has gone out of her way to try to make nice and play ball with the party establishment. You guys will remember when she had them damn tears when she was crying over the Israeli dome vote or whatever. Like, her of everybody, she went out of her way, y'all, to to make nice with these people. I think somebody has explained to her that she has a chance to be president one day, and the path forward was to like show love to these cats. And Nancy Pelosi, who's got like basically 2 years left, if she survives, she's 84 years old, guys. Like, it's not, I'm not just being a dick here. Like, she's old as dirt. Okay. Maybe she'll make it through her last term. But like in one of her last acts of, you know, basically she's the most powerful person in the party still living in terms of living people. She, like Joe Biden's, he's the president, but he's not alive. She's the most powerful person in the party. And her last act was to just shiv this chick in the back. Just stick the knife in it, because she's still pissed off that AOC, like, you know, supported some primary challenges to establishment incumbents who, by the way, like, that's supposed to be some mortal sin unless it's Jamal Bowman or Cori Bush or somebody. Then it's fine, the primary Democrats then. And yeah, man. And again, for a dude who's 74 years old and has cancer, like, when you talk about just tone deaf and just wow, it's kind of amazing. And I said this while I was on TYT with Anna, because we talked about this. At a certain level, you know, power only concedes to power. Just because it's the right thing to do, Nancy Pelosi is gonna be like, fuck you. Whip up the votes, bitch. Whip up the votes. You ain't got the votes, you don't get the win. I got the votes, so I'm killing your ass. I mean, that's just power politics right there. Like, you ain't got the juice. You know, it doesn't matter that. And again, a party that cares about winning and its future would be like, clearly this woman is one of our biggest stars in the party. She is one of our biggest cheerleaders. She's one of our most effective communicators. She's one of the only people that speaks to a young constituency. She's proven to be able to play ball and be a team player. Let's empower her. This would make sense. It's like, nah, fuck that. You're not the chosen one. The power still gets to pick. And the only way you're going to do anything is to literally kill these people. It's to wrest the power away. Like, I'm sorry. That's what Donald Trump and them did. That's what they did to the Republican establishment. Nobody gave them that shit. The establishment was trying to hand it to Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio and all these other clowns. Donald Trump just went in there and took it. It wasn't handed to him. He just took the shit. And now the party has been remade in his image. And I'm sorry, progressives, like, that's what it's going to take. Like, somebody's going to have to come in and take it from them and kill them and chop their necks off. Or if they don't want their necks completely chopped off, they got to give it up to you. Just like how, you know, Ted Cruz be phone banking for Donald Trump. You know what I mean? After he called his wife ugly and said his dad did JFK. That's the only way to do it. But I just thought that was fascinating, man. Like, AOC, who's just been such a good, pliant soldier. Remember when I know Kamala Harris is working diligently towards a deal between, you know, the Israel and Hamas. Like, diligently went out there shilling for Kamala Harris. You know, she was one of the last people to stand by Joe Biden. You know, it's just, that was just amazing to me. And to do it for a dude who's 74 and has cancer is just, mwah, chef's kiss. Like, fuck that. We're not empowering you. Y'all got to empower yourselves. Like, I just thought that was just an amazing message, man, to be sent. And, yeah, just crazy. The gerontocracy is just nuts. There's literally dudes in the Congress, man, that are being, I'm not kidding, they're being wheeled into Congress and they're like senile. They only ever read off of a piece of paper when they even do speak at all. Do no media. Like, the freaking the boomers and their refusal to give up power, just, you got to pry it out of their cold, dead, old ass hands. It's quite astonishing, y'all. Just hilarious. And, you know, y'all know I couldn't do this. My home state of New York, I had I had to get up in here, man. I had to get up in here. Shouts to my man Ken Klippenstein. Let me get this up here, Jerv, real quickly. Kathy Hochul, man, our great mayor, our great governor. When you talk about a hack Democratic Party operative and politician, she is at the top of the list of hacks. And new crisis hotline for CEOs. Governor of New York wants to protect CEOs. Here we go. New York State is considering creating a special hotline exclusively for CEOs to report perceived threats. CNN reported this morning. Nice little reminder of just how responsive government can be when it comes to corporate executives. Coming at the heels of the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, the proposal is a sign of the acute concern by government officials when it comes to business executives. Even though there have not been any other documented attacks on CEOs, and the alleged shooter, Luigi Mangione, has been arrested.
Let's go now to the latest in the fallout from the murder investigation of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The Office of New York Governor Kathy Hochul is convening a safety summit tomorrow between nervous business leaders and law enforcement. CNN has learned the safety concerns among executives are so widespread, New York State may create a special hotline just for CEOs to call in threats.
Special hotline, y'all. We're going to dedicate a hotline to y'all. We're not going to dedicate a hotline to people going bankrupt because they got sick. 40% of people who get cancer go bankrupt, lose their life savings. 40%. 40% of just because you got sick, nothing you could do about this. Go bankrupt. We're not creating a hotline. We're not creating a task force. We're not creating an infrastructure to address these folks' needs. But in industry, again, profit, the least shit you cover, the more profits you keep. That's the business model. Immediately, the state springs into action to soothe the delicate fifis of these CEO cats. It's fucking amazing. And just the cluelessness, the tone deafness of these fucking people, bro. Like, at no point do you say to yourselves, like, hold on, man, wait a second. Sure, like, both sides this motherfucker, right? Like, be like, yo, all right. People are really like angry about this and like the healthcare situation. Let's like pretend that we care about what the people are angry about. Let's pretend and be like, yo, look, you can't just in cold, like, this is a freaking society with law and order. You can't just go down and do extrajudicial killings of business people. They don't even bother with the lip service. Like, they don't give a fuck. They know what they care about. They know what they care about, who they care about. And I'm sorry, this shit is bipartisan. This idea that Democrats give a fuck about people, man, is nuts. It's absolutely nuts, especially these establishment hacks like Kathy Hochul. My God, is she a hack? And so, yeah, I just thought that was just, I mean, you want to talk about just a chef's kiss, just perfect illustration of the craziness of the status quo of institutions right now and them being shocked. Like, why does nobody trust us? Why do people want to see our institutions burned to the ground? Why do people want to vote for folks like Donald Trump who promised to burn shit to the ground? And you wonder why that is. You're shocked as to why or how that could be. It's just crazy. Hold on, John Jerv just sent me something. Joe Biden pardoned Big Meech's brother. Shouts to Joe Biden, man. This mother, he on a Listen, Trump had a classic pardoning streak. He pardoned the Desiree lady from Rock Nation, Jay-Z's CEO of Rock Nation. She had like snitched on the cartel back in like 92 or whatever it was, and like whatever. He got that pardon. Trump had some Kodak, Wayne. Trump went crazy. Biden was like, I gotta get some up there. Big Meech, your brother, we getting him out. Anyway, y'all. That's our show, man. It's the last one until the top of the year, folks. Just a shouts to everybody supporting the show, supporting CTV, man, supporting the Hoop Sense, supporting, Basketball Illuminati, supporting the mailbag, supporting all the stuff we do. Pack your knives, man. You know what I mean? Shouts to my man, Chef Eric, on there with Tom Haberstroh. Shouts to all of y'all, man. Become a Patreon at patreon.com/count the dings if you can. Big shout out to my brother, John Gervais, producer extraordinaire of the show. Keep the trains running on time, man, on the ones and threes. We will see you guys at the top of next year. Happy holidays to all of y'all. Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas, for all of those who celebrate. Happy New Year in advance, man. We love you guys. We appreciate your patronage. We will see you guys next year. Peace out.